Okay, folks, Andrew Bopros here. Well, quite a few of you guys have talked about beefing up the offensive line on our live videos. And I think now is a good time that we can talk about two veterans that a lot of you have talked about specifically in our chats to potentially add to this offensive line, give us a little more nastiness and really let us know whether or not we're really going to get this pound ground and pound type of running game that we think we're going to get with Amari Hampton and Najee Harris and potentially Raheem Sanders. We'll see what happens with that. But you know, this is an interesting conversation. Good time to talk about it because I think there's a very good chance that something could happen, but something might not happen. There's one player on the team right now that is really going to determine whether or not we sign anybody in free agency for the offensive line. So good little video. Guys, let's get into it. Okay, folks, as always, like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. I'm Andrew Bopros. So what am I really getting at? Well, a lot of people, you've talked about two players that we could go potentially get right now very cheaply for the Chargers to bolster our offensive line. Look at this mustache, guys. Check that out. Okay. Will Hernandez, interesting figure, in my opinion. Again, he's much like another player I'm going to talk about here in a second, hasn't quite lived up to his hype, right? Former second round pick, NFL free agency. He's getting a little older. I think he's 30 years old at this point. But Brandon Austin of Pro Football Network has stated that the Chargers should consider signing him. I'm going to go through his PFF ratings here in a second as well, too. Again, PFF, I'm not a huge fan of, but I do think there's some merit to look at his numbers. Um, Again, Austin says Johnson's has an uncertain future with the Cardinals. Cardinals, I don't think anyone's really expecting them to be very good this season as well, too. So who knows? Might be a trade potential opportunity. Hernandez will be 30, new season, coming off his best season as a pro, which you could kind of argue a few different ways. I think he did pretty well after adding Najee Harris and Martin Hampton, as I already alluded to. Their Chargers are looking to do more of a ground and pound type of football, which I do think that's really what we want to do. Greg Roman wants that. Jim Harbaugh wants it. You know that as well. But you could also sign him at an affordable price. He's not going to be very expensive, especially coming off an injury-riddled season. So again, you could argue, well, maybe we should go get him. Well, I think that, again, I'm going to talk about a player here in a second that's currently on the roster that's really going to determine whether or not we go after anybody in free agency. I remember last season, we went out and got Taylor Heinicke, and we went out and got Elijah Molden, traded right before the season as adding depth to the quarterback position and the safety position. I think after all the evaluations done and getting into camp, these coaching staff are going to look at, are we happy with the people we have? Who's available? Who should we go get? Is it worth it to bring another guy in? This guy could be a very good choice for the Chargers. Again, he's a very aggressive type player. So let's just look at his numbers really quickly. His grades are okay. Again, I always say at PFF, and again, I can argue all that. We have a very long video on how much I don't like PFF's ratings, but anyways, it is what it is. But again, if you're in the green, it's peachy keen, right? We'll just say that in the green, peachy keen. Overall grade's not too bad, 69%. So yeah, he's good. Like, he's done great. He's a guard, could be a good left guard. But I will say this: almost 70% for overall grade, pass blocking grade, very good. Run blocking grade, not that great. Now, I think I'd say his athleticism is a little off, but again, he's only had 280 snaps. Oops, hit the wrong button there. And he had 280 snaps, 2 penalties, 0 sacks allowed. But again, he did not play all season. He's injured. He's banged up. Does he even want to come back? Who knows? We'll see. But you could sign him cheap. That's my point, right? Good depth piece, yada, yada. Chargers have quite a bit of depth pieces as well, too. We'll talk more about that in a second. But this other guy who I accidentally hit the button, Brandon Sheriff, we talked about him even last year. I think it was he was on the Commanders, if I remember correctly, and Jacksonville signed him for a 1-year deal. Again, Sheriff's a little older too. I think he's 30 years old. We'll see how it plays out. He clearly wants to get a championship. I think he went to Jacksonville thinking the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be a good team last year. They were not, as we all know. But, he had a really good season. I mean, look at his numbers. Now, again, over 1,000 snaps. That's pretty huge. Good grade, 64.7%. Pass blocking was very good. Run blocking was not good, right? So you might make the argument, well, was it the scheme that he was in, or was it just the offense that he was in? What was it exactly? But he only had 2 penalties and 0 sacks allowed. So look, a guy like this, I think, would do really well with the Chargers, right? I think he would be fine, right? So both guys, I'm not going to argue one way or the other. They would be bad. They would be very good. I do think that they would be good. Now, would they be a bigger step above the people we have now currently? Well, let's talk about that. So the main person that I think is really going to make the big difference, whether or not we sign anyone on the offensive line, is this young man right here, Zion Johnson. Zion Johnson has not lived up to his draft capital, for lack of a better term. I think part of the reason why Ron Tabasco and Brandon Staley liked him so much was the fact that he was a pretty versatile player in the sense that he could play guard, center, and tackle. He could play all three positions, or at least he had played all three positions at Boston College. Can't remember exact splits and yada yada, but if he can make a transition to center, that means Bradley Bozeman can move to left guard, right? And then you have Trey Pipkins as a backup. You have Jamari Sawyer as a backup, and then Andre James as another backup, right? So you have three really good backups you could bring in at different times, or ultra jumbo packages, whatever you want to call them. So again, if you could get Zion Johnson to make the transition to a center, that would make a lot of sense. Now, the argument is he built like a center? I will say this, that a lot of centers are a little smaller. Typically, the guards are bigger. He was 310. And I think a lot of people picked on him because of his size, right? He's very strong. Nobody is denying his strength. He is extremely strong. He's as strong as Rashawn Slater. The difference is he doesn't move bodies because of his size. Having said that, the nice thing about moving him to center is you don't have to be as big, you have to be more athletic, and that's really what he is. So I would argue that it would be good to see him make that move because it's an easy slide. Then you already got three backups. You don't need anybody else. You're going to be Gucci. And then you could have a couple of extra backups on the practice squad and ready for game day and yada yada, you'll be fine. The thing about Zion, though, too, is if you had someone like him, you could probably do a tush push. You could probably do some of these other things that the NFL has been doing because he's more athletic, right? You could easily have him hit somebody in front of him, pass him off to one of the guards, left or right, obviously Bozeman and or Mekhi Becton, and then get penetration to the linebacker, hit the Mike linebacker, weak side linebacker, whomever, for whichever way the play is moving. Again, the one question I have, are we going to be under center more? Or are we going to be more in shotgun? I would assume Greg Roman's offense is more under center. That's where you're going to have problems with the snap, right? And I think that's where the question really can be consistent like a Bradley Bozeman was. If not, then he probably can't make that step. So again, that is the major question I have moving forward. Can Zion make the transition to really be that center that we need? Now, again, Andre James is on the team. He's good. He's a serviceable center, as of course. But Zion, I think, has all the right tools, all the right talent to be successful in that position. So we'll just see if he can do it. But again, he has to operate the line, right? He's smart enough. We know he is. He has a degree in cybersecurity. That's not easy to get. I actually am work in cybersecurity, so I understand that environment very well. It is very complicated, very interesting, and you got to be smart to understand it, right? So I think it's where Zion is very again, he is going to be the ultimate deciding factor on what happens in free agency. But let's just look at his numbers really quickly, and then we'll wrap up the video. Overall, last year's grades were arguably his worst year by a long shot. But again, I don't think he's a left guard, right? Again, Bradley Bozeman, guys, he's like 6'4", like 330, 340, something like that. He's a big dude. So moving him to left guard, guys, we would have one of the biggest offensive lines in the NFL at that point with Mekhi Becton. Oh my God. Like it just people movers. And I'm telling you, guys, it would be ridiculous. And I just think with the athleticism of Zion getting up, anyways, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's review his grades. 65.7% is overall grade. Not great. Again, he's in the green still. Pass blocking, again, not great, but he's in the green. Run blocking, again, not great, but he's in, again, 61st, 55th. Again, probably his worst year in the NFL. So, and again, a lot of snaps. He's on the field all the time. He's always healthy. So, that's where his value really lies. But again, running a center role would make so much more sense for the Chargers. I just think he's smart enough. He could do it. And it would open up the offensive line to so much more. But again, he gave up 4 penalties and 5 sacks. And again, rule number 1, guys, on that offensive line is protect Justin Herbert. And I think that's where, Zion's a bit of a liability. That's what he was a liability when last year. It was really hard to move the ball on the left side, and we struggled. And Trey Pip could be, a backup on left guard or right guard, with Bozeman. And then you also have Andre James potentially backing up as a center, or you can move both, Bradley to the center role, back, maybe move Andre James to left guard. Who knows? It adds a lot of options moving forward if you can just get Zion to be good enough to play an NFL center position. That to me is the biggest conversation right now for the offensive line. And I think we have the talent. Whether or not he can do it or not is really what it's going to be up to the coaches, right? I mean, again, I don't see these snaps. I don't know what they're fully evaluating, but bottom line, it's really going to boil down to him. Can he be an NFL starting center? Is really going to determine whether we go out and get anybody else moving forward. So that's my long-winded answer. I did respond to somebody's question. I think I had like 2 questions, I think Monday, and then a lot of people talked about it live. So I thought it was a good time for me to address my thoughts. So guys, what do you think? Am I crazy? Am I off base? Leave a comment down below. Love to hear your thoughts. As always, Andrew Bolt Bros. See you guys in the next one.
Hey, what's up? Cameron Dick here watching Bolt Bros podcast. Let's go.
Charged up, Bolt Bros on the night.